Never be afraid of the way that Yah made you, 'cause He made you fearfully and wonderfully. Every part of you is His image. Yes, it is. Never let anyone look down on you for what you are or what you ain't. Stand tall and walk in what you know, in what you know. Be confident in the abilities of His Spirit. He's creating in you the desire to do what pleases Him. You gotta want it more than anyone wants it for yourself. Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Shalom, everybody. Welcome to Moving on Faith. I am your sister, Anamalave, and this is the Bible study from Sarai to Sarah, part 3. So if this is your first time joining us, welcome. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button and also the notifications button so that way you can get notified anytime I put a video up. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, like it, and share it. Thank you ahead of time. All right, so a quick recap, okay? Last time we were here when we started to do part 2, we talked about how Sarah giving Hagar as a wife in order to bring forth a child for her husband was a human attempt to fulfill Yah's promise. She was acting in the capacity of a helpmeet, right? That was her job. That was her role. Which is, and if you missed it, the whole idea and concept of a helpmeet is to be able to see what Yah has for your husband and be able to then help to manifest it or to fulfill it and make it a reality. Okay, so that is our job as helpmeets, and that's exactly what Sarah was trying to do, or Sarai at this point. That's exactly what she was trying to do. Her intentions were good. Unfortunately, execution fell short by human attempt, which is completely understandable. So that was a quick recap of what we went over last week. And now we will go over, or we will start getting right into picking up from there, part 3, covenants and conception. All right. So please turn to your Bibles in the book of Genesis 17, chapter 17, verses 15. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, I like to kind of switch through the versions just to help me get a better understanding. So for this lesson or this study, we will be going in and using the NLT version. Please feel free to use whatever version you prefer. Okay. Genesis 17, verse 15. Then Yahuwah said to Abraham, regarding Sarai, your wife, her name will no longer be Sarai. From now on, her name will be Sarah. And I will bless her and give you a son from her. Yes, I will bless her richly, and she will become the mother of many nations. Kings of nations will be among her descendants. Then Abraham bowed down to the ground, but he laughed to himself in disbelief. How could I become a father at the age of 100? He thought. And how can Sarah have a baby when she is 90 years old? So Abraham said to Yahuwah, may Ishmael live under your special blessing? But Yahuwah replied, no. Sarah, your wife, will give birth to a son for you. You will name him Isaac, and I will confirm my covenant with him and his descendants as an everlasting covenant. All right. So here's what we know. First off, just like Abraham, Sarah laughed at the very thought of conceiving at her very well-seasoned age of 90, right? This is not, first of all, a woman conceiving at 90 years old is nothing short of a miracle. So let's just take a second to really let that sink in and realize just how great of a miracle this conception and this birth was. And of course, it was all willed by Yah. Okay. I thought it was very interesting that Yah gave 3 witnesses to confirm that Sarai would bring forth a son. So as we read last time and what we'll be reading today, you can reference Genesis 15:4, Genesis 17:6, and Genesis 18:10, all of which witness to the fact that Sarah will conceive a son and she will bring forth a son for Abraham to be his heir. Now, why is this important? Why? Really quick, or rather, why me bringing up the 3 references why is that important? So really quick, let's go to Matthew 18 and 16. Matthew 18 and 16. But if you are unsuccessful, take 1 or 2 others with you and go back again, so that everything you say may be confirmed by 2 or 3 witnesses. So we see this is a pattern all throughout the scriptures where, you will see certain things mentioned 2 to 3 times. The reason for this is to confirm exactly what it is you're reading and the understanding that correlates to it. Context is everything. However, a lot of times we read the scriptures through our own trauma-filled lenses. And so we can read something, and because of our past experiences, we can now put that bias into the scriptures and actually misunderstand what we're reading. However, throughout the scriptures, you will find multiple witnesses to confirm a thing, to confirm an understanding. And so it forces you to really put aside your own biases and your own opinions and thoughts and take the scripture for what it is actually saying. This is a gift for us, for anyone who is studying the word. Okay? Now, let's talk about it. All the laughing. Okay, scripture tells us that both Abram and Sarai laughed when they were told that they would have a son in their old age. Okay, this was funny to them, right? And here's the thing: I don't think they laughed because they didn't believe that Yah could do it. I think they were laughing at themselves. I think this really shows the kind of sense of humor these people had. I mean, these are real people. No one's just walking around serious all day 24/7. These people, they clearly had a good sense of humor about themselves and their situation. And, I could see it. I could see them finding a little bit of humor, like, oh my gosh, I'm old and I'm going to have kids. Like, So I definitely could see that being the case. I really honestly don't think it was a situation of them just not believing that Yah could do it. They feared Yah. They knew Yah. So I don't think that was the case. I think these people just had a really good sense of humor, I'm going to say. But we do see again, so we know that Abram laughed, Sarai laughed when this was told that she would have a child. But then we see it again a 3rd time. Sarah actually mentions it again in Genesis 21 and 6. So for those of you who are looking for your 2 to 3 witnesses, there you go. 2 to 3 witnesses confirming with a laugh. Now, why is this important? Like, what is the significance of this laugh and these laughing, right? So it's really interesting, but Isaac's name means he laughs. You can check in the Hebrew. I'm going to butcher this, so please don't judge me. Ishak is how you say it in Hebrew, Isaac, but his name means he laughs, okay? Is this a coincidence? I don't think so. As we have read already in Genesis 17 and 19, Yah had told Abraham Sarah would bear him a son and that son would be named Isaac. So Yah had already destined Isaac to be named Isaac even before Abraham and Sarah laughed. So was it a coincidence? I don't think so. I think, in my opinion, to me, this is really showing like prophecy being fulfilled. Yah said, you know what, you're going to have a son and you're going to name him Isaac, which coincidentally means he laughs. And then Abram laughs, Sarah laughs, and then she laughs again. She mentions it later that people will laugh with her. So to me, I'm really leaning towards the idea of, this was really just being prophecy fulfilled. Yah prophesied like this is going to happen. And it did happen. And even more so, these witnesses are just confirming like this was always meant to be. This was always going to happen. Isaac was going to be born and he was going to be named Isaac. And the chips fell exactly where they were supposed to fall. So that's kind of what I think about that. I think it's just an interesting concept. I think people read this part of the scriptures and they are so harsh on Sarah, almost painting her out to be this faithless woman who just like was laughing and mocking. And I don't think that's what the situation was at all. I mean, she has a great sense of humor. The girl can laugh at herself, right? So I can appreciate that. Covenants. Let's talk about the covenant. Okay. So we see during this time, Abram and Sarai's names are changed from changed from Abram to Abraham and Sarai to Sarah, marking not only their official entrance into the covenant with Yah, but also symbolizing the spiritual rebirth as new creatures in Yah, in covenant with Yah. So really quick, let's just go to Romans 12:1, because this idea of this rebirth, right? The symbolic rebirth. There's so much we can kind of go into this. So without further ado, we will get into it. Romans 12:1, and we're going to read down to 2. And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to Yahuwah because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let Yahuwah transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know Yahuwah's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. I'm going to give a really quick testimony here. So, I come from the Christian church background. And obviously now I'm walking in Torah, and the two are not so far, right? They're not so distant from each other. I believe that in Christianity, they have mastered like the fruits of the spirit. And I believe, in Torah, we have mastered the practice of keeping the commandments. I think is the best of both worlds. And I think if we just put it all together, we could have something serious. But that aside, in my past, when I was in the Christian church, I did get baptized. And if I'm being completely transparent and completely honest, at the time I'd gotten baptized, I genuinely wanted to change. I really did feel like I wanted to change, right? The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And I say that because at that time I was struggling with, smoking. I was smoking marijuana and just like partying and all of that, as a young woman. And when I got baptized, I felt convicted and I really wanted to change my life. I really genuinely did. However, my mind hadn't been transformed, although my spirit was longing for transformation. And so within a week, I had already backslid back into my sinful ways. So unfortunately, that baptism didn't truly symbolize for me that transformation, transformation of the mind and the spirit, because I didn't adhere to it. I wasn't truly transformed. And then when I came into Torah, I was transformed of the mind first. Once I was convinced here, then my mind, or through the power of the willpower of my mind, I was able to now commit my spirit to now transforming. So at that point, I do believe I was transformed by through the mind, and my spirit was transformed, and I was able to then, get away from smoking, get away from, that partying and the drinking and all of the iniquity that I was partaking in. But I say that all to say, this is exactly what the scripture is talking about, right? Like, the change has to start here first. You have to decide you actually want the change. The spirit is willing. It's the flesh that's weak. So if your flesh is not truly convinced, unfortunately, it can be that transition and that transformation can be very hard. But it does mark a transition. We see this transition and this change happening to Abraham and Sarah. And so I just wanted to touch base on that really quick. But before we move on, let us go to Ephesians chapter 4 and 22. Ephesians 4 and 22, and we'll read down to 24. Throw off your old sinful nature and your former way of life, which is corrupted by lust and deception. Instead, let the Spirit renew your thoughts and attitudes. Put on your new nature, created to be like Yahuwah, truly righteous and holy. So stop telling, I'll stop there. Sorry. So again, this just confirms exactly what was being said in Romans 12 and 1 through 2. The change has to start here first. You have to choose, right? When we choose, because that's the part we need to focus on. When we choose, because we must choose, the choice is always given to us. We have free will. Yah is not forcing anything upon us. He could, but he chooses not to. He wants us to choose life. So because we must choose to turn away from sin and the ways of the world and seek to begin to align ourselves with Yah's instructions, aka his commandments, because that's what his commandments are. They are instructions for how we should live our lives. Okay, so once we align ourselves with Yah's instructions, we then die, or rather, that sinful person dies, and we are reborn of the Spirit as new people in Hamashiach, or what you would recognize as Jesus Christ. So again, this is the whole transformation that's happening, a dying of the Spirit and the rebirth of another, okay, within you. And a lot of times we will begin to see those changes begin to manifest on our outside appearance, right? So a lot of times we'll begin to change the way we dress. We'll begin to change the way we speak. We begin to change the type of activities we partake in. We change the people that we surround ourselves with. So it starts with those things, but ultimately it leads to a changing and a transformation of the Spirit. Okay. Now, I say all that to say, it's all symbolic of being made new. So as we see with Abraham and Sarah, the changing of their names was symbolic of their transformation in the Spirit, right? Once they now joined this covenant with Yah, they are now new creatures. Please note, and this is important, right? Because please note that Isaac was born to two parents, both in covenant with Yah, while Ishmael was not. So even though Ishmael was Abraham's son, he was not born into the covenant. Isaac was born into the covenant through Yah's own fulfillment via the Spirit, okay? Because mind you, at that point, Sarah was barren. So for her to conceive had to have been a miracle only that could have been done by Yah. While Ishmael was born not in the covenant, he was born through human fulfillment, right? Because Sarah, wanting to manifest Yah's promise, gave Hagar to Abraham in order to do so, right? Yah did not lead that. However, Yah led the conception of Isaac in Sarah. Okay. Now, let's go to Galatians chapter 4. Okay. We'll start from Galatians chapter 4, verse 21. We'll start there and we'll read down to verse 31. Okay. Tell me, you who want to live under the law, do you know what the law actually says? The scriptures say that Abraham had two sons, one from his slave wife and one from his freeborn wife. The son of a slave wife was born in a human attempt to bring about the fulfillment of Yah's promise. But the son of the freeborn wife was born as Yah's own fulfillment of his promise. These two women serve as an illustration of Yah's two covenants. The first woman, Hagar, represents Mount Sinai, where people received the law that enslaved them. And now Jerusalem is just like Mount Sinai in Arabia because she and her children live in slavery to the law. But the other woman, Sarah, represents the heavenly Jerusalem. She is the free woman and she is our mother. As Isaiah said, rejoice, O childless woman, you who have never given birth. Break into a joyful shout, you who have never been in labor, for the desolate woman now has more children than the woman who lives with her husband. And you, dear brothers and sisters, are children of the promise, just like Isaac. But you are now being persecuted by those who want you to keep the law, just as Ishmael, the child born by human effort, persecuted Isaac, the child born by the power of the Spirit. But what do the scriptures say about that? Get rid of the slave and her son, for the son of a slave woman will not share the inheritance with the free woman's son. So, dear brothers and sisters, we are not children of the slave woman. We are children of the free woman. I mean, wow. Right? Here's the thing. People believe that not everyone. Some people, I'll correct myself. Some people believe that salvation comes through the works of the law. This is incorrect. Okay? The law, Yah's commandments, were never meant to give you salvation. That is not why they were given. The commandments are instructions on how you should live life according to Yah's will. Okay? That's basically put, they're instructions. Salvation of the Spirit comes only through Christ, Yahoshua Ha'Mashiach in the Hebrew, right? Or whom you would recognize as Jesus Christ. Salvation comes only through Yahoshua Ha'Mashiach. Really quick, let's go to John 14:6. Yahoshua told him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. We see in the scriptures, and even today, that there are those cleaving to the law for salvation instead of cleaving to Yahoshua Ha'Mashiach, as if to say that the blood of the Lamb isn't enough to save us. They said it then during his time, and people are still cleaving to this notion today. Folks, this is a mistake. This is a mistake. Yahoshua Ha'Mashiach is enough. His blood is enough to give us salvation, right? When in his day, when he was crucified, they did not want to accept that his blood, that him being there, was truly their salvation. They didn't want to believe he was their Messiah. They needed more. They needed signs, wonders, and works, right? They wanted to see everything he could do before they would actually believe that he was the son of Yehovah our Elohim. And it's still the same way today. There are people who unfortunately believe that they can earn salvation through their works when the works were never meant to give you salvation. It was always going to be Yahoshua. It was always meant to be him to save us. Okay. Let's go to Romans 3:31. Romans 3:31. Well then, if we emphasize faith, does this mean that we can forget about the law? Of course not. In fact, only when we have faith do we truly fulfill the law. So, am I sitting here saying that you don't have to keep the commandments of Yah? No, that would be ludicrous. You can't just go ahead and kill people. You can't just go ahead and commit adultery. You can't just go ahead and worship other gods. You can't just go ahead and steal, right? Those laws are still in effect today. Most of us try to live by them, right? So, no, the law is not done away with, right? But when it says, if you want to fulfill the law, you fulfill it through faith. It's because you believe in Yahoshua, that faith in Yahoshua, that he died for us to bring us back into covenant with Yah, to give us that salvation. Do you believe that? Do you believe that his blood is enough? Right? If so, then you are a child of the promise. You are a child of the freeborn woman. You are a descendant of Isaac, right? If you don't believe that, then you are a child of the slave woman. You are a child of Hagar. We cannot put ourselves in a position to be the child of the slave woman when Yah has given us that freedom through Yahoshua to be a child of promise, right? Now, I'm going to make 2 quick points here. The children of the slave woman believe in the, hear me out here. The children of the slave woman believe in the manifestation of Yah's promises of salvation by their own human efforts. Pretty much, their salvation is based on what they can do. While the children of the free woman, right, believe in the manifestation of Yah's promises of salvation by and from Him, Yah, and the deliverer He gave us, which is Yahoshua Ha'Mashiach. One person, one child believes that they can, it is up to them to earn salvation. The other believes in the promises that Yah has made to us by giving us His only begotten Son, Yahoshua Ha'Mashiach. It has nothing to do with what we can do for Him. I think we sometimes don't realize this, but He doesn't need our help. Yah doesn't need our help. We need Him. He doesn't need us. So we need to start realizing that any promise that He has made to us, He's going to fulfill without us having to get involved and try to manipulate the situation to try to make it happen. Because as we see from Sarah's example, when you go ahead and overstep your role and try to fulfill a promise that Yah has made, it can turn back, right? So we see that there. So I just wanted to give you that to meditate on in regards to this covenant and conception. But there's more. Here's a copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Copyright disclaimer. And it reads, if there's an allowance made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in the favor of fair use.
Hold it steady, Ishmael. Sahara, did you see that? Did you see that? Oh, my boy, my boy.
My boy. Your boy.
Go with your mother.
Your breath. Did you feel Ishmael?
Ishmael. Good. Sarah? What's the matter?
woman thinks her boy is going to inherit what rightfully belongs to Isaac. Who is to be the first of all our tribe, Abraham? The first star of all those stars in the heavens. Our son. Or hers?
Sarai.
Abraham. Abraham. You decide. Or let God decide.
Be brave.
Assured by God that they will survive, Abraham sends Hagar and Ishmael into the wilderness.
Fly, Ishmael. Oh, my boy. My boy. When you grow up, God will bless you with many children.
All right. Genesis 21:9. But Sarah saw Ishmael, the son of Abraham, and her Egyptian servant Hagar, making fun of her son, Isaac. So she turned to Abraham and demanded, "Get rid of that slave woman and her son. He is not going to share the inheritance with my son Isaac. I won't have it." This upset Abraham very much because Ishmael was his son. But Yah told Abraham, "Do not be upset over the boy and your servant. Do whatever Sarah tells you, for Isaac is the son through whom your descendants will be counted. But I will also make a nation of the descendants of Hagar's son, because he is your son too." So Abraham got up early the next morning, prepared food and a container of water, and strapped them on Hagar's shoulders. Then he sent her away with their son, and she wandered aimlessly in the wilderness of Beersheba. Okay. Whew, heavy stuff. So, if you haven't already done the math, Ishmael was 14 when Isaac was born. So children are usually weaned by the time they are turned 3, more or less. So let's picture this, okay? Because it didn't really show this in the video footage, but let's picture this. And put ourselves in Sarah's chanclas or sandals. So you see a 17-year-old boy picking on your 3-year-old toddler, okay? This same toddler is going to be his leader and the head of the family at some point once he grows up. As a mother, I'll be honest, I'm not okay with any kid, let alone a teenager, picking with my kids, right? And I have a 2-year-old and I have a 3-year-old. Well, a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old now. So they're babies, okay? So for this young man, because that's exactly what he was 17 years old. He was a young man. For him to think it was okay to bully a little baby, that's a huge problem. It's a huge problem for me. And I can imagine that was a huge problem for Sarah as well. Now let's think about this in regards to inheritances and power being a real thing to worry about, because this is what we're dealing with. This is not just 2 kids on the playground. These are heads of families, future heads of families. We see in both our history as well as the history of in the heathen cultures as well, that brothers will kill each other or try to kill each other for inheritances, birthrights, power, and wealth. This is a very real thing. So when Sarah saw Ishmael finding joy in bullying the next in line to inherit the covenant, right, and everything that Abraham had, this was troublesome. It was a major red flag, as it would be for any mother. Okay, I'm going to make a couple points here. The first one is this: if he was showing signs, he being Ishmael, if Ishmael was showing signs of animosity toward Isaac as a child, how much more would he do so throughout his life and their lives together? Who's to say that he wouldn't have attempted to kill Isaac if given the opportunity in order to take his birthright and his inheritance? Like in The Lion King. I went there. It happens. The second point I want to make, him being too close, Ishmael being too close to Isaac, right? In regards to like being within his inner circle. This puts him in a position to stage a coup, okay? Or to lead a rebellion or insurrection. Also, him being too close could allow him the opportunity to learn to control or to manipulate Isaac, which could lead to his demise or to his takedown, right? We know that, little children are impressionable. And especially if they have a big brother whom they admire, they might just do what Isaac could grow to do whatever Ishmael says. And Ishmael could take advantage of that opportunity. So that's another thing that could happen from there. Number 3. If the other people see Ishmael, the other people being the other inhabitants of Abraham's on his land and his servants and all of his, people, all his people, if they saw Ishmael undermining Isaac, that might cause them to now treat him with contempt upon assuming leadership, right? So once he becomes a leader, who's to say that the people will actually respect him if they seen him being completely walked over by Ishmael? Okay, so having Ishmael around was very, very dangerous. And Sarah saw this. She saw what Abraham couldn't see. I'll say it again. She saw what Abraham couldn't see. Why do you think that is? Let's go to Proverbs 12:4. Proverbs 12:4. A worthy wife is a crown for her husband, but a disgraceful woman is like cancer in his bones. So let's just dive into this a little bit here. The word for crown in Hebrew is atara. That's Strong's H5850 for those of you who want to reference that. The root word Strong's H5849, atar, meaning to surround something, okay? So as a crown surrounds the head of the person, the word atar means to surround, okay? Now, this is positive and negative because it could be to surround in either a hostile manner or a protective manner, okay? So when the scriptures say a virtuous woman, because that is, in the KJV, it will say virtuous woman. A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband. The action behind this word is that she, the wife, she surrounds him to protect him. She has his back. Essentially, his wife has his back, okay? So we see our husbands are focusing on doing the work of Yah, doing whatever it is that Yah has for them. And they are counting on us as their wives, as their crowns, to watch what's happening around us being the family and the home, as he keeps his gaze focused on Yah's mission. We essentially are his 6 o'clock, right? Sarah is Abraham's number 1 ally. As a wife, you should be your husband's number 1 ally, okay? You are watching everything. You are seeing what he doesn't see. You are, that's what a part of being a crown is, right? To surround him in a protective manner, in a loving manner. Sarah was a crown unto Abraham, and as wives, being in that 6 o'clock position and watching out for our husbands and our children and all that Yah has given us, we may see some things that perhaps our husbands don't see because, again, their attention is focused on Yah's work, as it should be. Okay. Our husbands and our children are our work. And in this case, Sarah was just doing, again, she's just doing her job. She saw something her husband didn't see. She foresaw the potential destruction of all that Yah was using Abraham to build if and when Ishmael decided to turn on Isaac. The potential for an insurrection was too great based on what she was seeing, from Ishmael toward Isaac. Both she and Abraham understood that sometimes sacrifices have to be made for the greater good, which was the inheritance of the covenant with Yah. Even in this act of sending Ishmael away, did Yah instruct Abraham to take his wife's counsel because he allowed Sarah to see what Abraham didn't. If anyone reads this and in some twisted way interprets this as Sarah trying to usurp authority over her husband, you are mistaken. Sarah was a righteous woman, and it is a wife's role to counsel her husband, especially in the areas in which she masters, like the children and the home. And those are just two examples. A wise man would do well to consider the counsel from his loyal and righteous and obedient wife. For man can't do it all alone, which is why Yah gave him a wife as a helpmeet. We both need each other, which is how Yah intended it to be. We, as wives, need our husbands, and them as husbands, they need us. So we need to be working together. Different roles, part of the same body. The last thing I want to address is her manner, the standard for all women in Torah. For the standard, it should be the standard for all women, point period, point blank. But it may not be. But let's just go through the characteristics of what it is to be a godly and righteous woman. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 3. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 1. In the same way, you wives must accept the authority of your husbands. Then, even if some refuse to obey the good news, your godly lives will speak to them without any words. They will be won over by observing your pure and reverent lives. Don't be concerned with the outward beauty of fancy hairstyles, expensive jewelry, or beautiful clothes. You should clothe yourself instead with the beauty that comes from within, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is so precious to Yahuwah. This is how the holy women of the old made themselves beautiful. They trusted Yahuwah and accepted the authority of their husbands. For instance, Sarah obeyed her husband, Abraham, and called him master. You are her daughters when you do what is right without fear of what your husbands might do. Let's talk about one thing. Sarah called her husband Lord or master. Why? Here's the thing. When a man marries a woman, he is required to pay a dowry price, right? This could include money, time, labor, livestock, or whatever was valuable to him. The man sacrifices something of value to himself in order to now get an equal or greater exchange in a wife. An example is Jacob serving Laban for 7 years for each of his wives. Shechem, as well as all of the men becoming circumcised to get Dinah. David giving Saul 200 foreskins of the Philistines for Michal. So as you can see, a man pays a great price for a wife. Then she belongs to him. And while it seems transactional, it's a sure way to separate the men serious about you from the ones who aren't. Who's willing to pay the cost to have you as their wife? So many ladies nowadays are just giving themselves away for free when you're just devaluing yourself. Any man who is serious about you is willing to pay for you. And that might not always mean money. That might mean time from their life. Jacob worked 7 years for one wife, and then worked another 7 for the other. So, I mean, that's real love. That's real commitment, you know? Now, let's go to Actually, I'll just read it. From the book of Ecclesiasticus 36:24. He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession, a help like unto himself, and a pillar of rest. A wife is a possession to her husband. This is not a negative thing, despite what the feminist movement may have convinced you, ladies. It isn't a negative thing. This is a beautiful and powerful thing. Your husband loved you, valued you, wanted you so much that he gave so much of himself in order to have you forever. I mean, talk about grand gestures of love, grand declarations of everlasting love. How much is your man willing to sacrifice to get you? Because a lot of guys nowadays won't even buy you dinner, but they want the whole, what is it? They're not buying the ice cream, but they want everything in the ice cream truck for free. That's not how it goes, but it's something like that. So, and most of us women, if we're being honest, completely honest with ourselves, most of us women want for our men to have claim over us. It reminds us that he values us, right? Even Usher had this song, right? There goes my baby. So nobody wants to be the woman who's like, the guy's like, oh, she's not my girl. You know what I mean? Like, how embarrassing is that? No, we want our man to claim us. Like, no, that's my girl. That's my woman. That's my wife. Who doesn't want to be claimed by their man? Nobody. Some psycho, crazy people. So yeah, I mean, put the feminist thoughts out of your head, ladies, and let's keep it real. We want to be claimed. We want our men to claim us. We want to belong to them, right? Now, Sarah respected Abraham for his headship over her and his sacrifices that he made for her. That respect translates or develops into love, okay? When a man gives so much of himself to you, to protect you, to provide for you, you respect him. And that respect adds to your love for him, okay? When your man is not doing those things, unfortunately, do you really love him? Because do you really respect him? Because is he worthy of respect at that point? But that's a different conversation. Okay, so Sarah called him master out of respect for him and his caring and his caretaking of her, right? He provided for her, he protected her, and he led her. He did all the things that Yah did for Israel. He did all the things that the good shepherd does for his sheep, right? Provides, protects, and leads. And Sarah, she had respect for him and his efforts. Everything that he did, she respected him. She appreciated him. She loved him. How many women call their husbands my king? Yes, it's out of respect, right? But even more, it's a sign of affection and adoration. Like, I know my husband and I, like we'll sometimes like buy cards for each other, and I'll say like my king, or like in my phone he's under my king, and I'm his queen, and it's more than just a title. It's also a reflection of how much we love each other, our adoration and affection toward one another. It's like a tongue twister. Now, wives, we know how important it is to show our husbands not only respect, but adoration and affection. Men need to feel adored. They need to feel affection just as much as we women need that. We want to be adored. We want to feel affection. We want to be respected. We want to be loved. So, of course, it is only natural that our men want the same things, okay? And it is vital. It is so important, especially in a marriage, especially in a healthy, loving, and respectful marriage, to reciprocate what your husband is giving you, okay? So, calling your husband king, master, my lord, that's going to make him feel so loved, so valued, so respected, so adored. You, sister, you're going to be a very happy woman, okay? Because happy men treat their wives wonderful. Just like happy wives treat their husbands wonderful. Like, they say happy wife, happy life. Well, happy husband, just everybody's happy. I don't know. I'm gonna make up my own saying. So, and I think it had a little of that too, with Sarah and Abraham. Not only was she showing him respect by calling him master, but she was showing her affection for him. She wanted to please him. Wives, we want to please our husbands. Sarah calling her husband master is an outward expression of her humility and her submission to him. It's a reflection of her inner workings as a grateful acknowledgement of her role as his wife, his rib, and his help. And now I know the world has convinced us women that how dare you be humble or submissive to your husband? You, sister, are oppressed. Nope, I'm not oppressed. I am submissive and I am humble to my husband, and I am obedient to my husband, and I'm not oppressed. My husband gives me whatever I want. He adores me. He loves me. He cherishes me. He respects me. So of course I submit to him. Of course I obey him. I trust him. I let him lead me. I am humble with him. Of course I am these things with him, right? Because he is a man who has proven to be worthy of those things, as I, as a woman, have proven to be worthy of the reciprocal of that. Right? So again, it is just an acknowledgement, a grateful acknowledgement of our role as being their wives. I'm grateful to be my husband's wife, because I could have a husband right now who would treat me like garbage. And my husband is grateful to have me as his wife, because he could have a woman who is just absolutely a nightmare, and less personality than me. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm sure that was the same thing with Sarah and Abraham. So, in closing, everybody, because we have finally made it to the end of this From Sarai to Sarah Bible study. In closing, Sarai showed us what faith looks like as a woman in Torah through her submission and her trust in her husband. And Sarah showed us our role in action, right? And just how important it is to our husbands, our children, and our families' inheritance. Everything we do as wives goes hand in hand with the success of our husbands, our children, our families, and our household. We are important. We are valued, okay? Whether you are in the early part of your walk, whether you are walking like Sarai right now, or you're in the later part of your walk where you're embracing your Sarah, okay? Remember that there will always come situations that will test your faith, will test your loyalty, will test your obedience, not only to your husband, but to Yah. Let the true colors of your heart align with your thoughts, actions, and words. And please let all of that be in alignment with the scriptures, because it is hard. It is so hard. But we must make a conscious effort to daily examine ourselves and to work harder tomorrow to be better than who we were today. Be intentional in your decisions, especially in your obedience and submission. Be intentional with your words. Words have power. So if it makes a huge difference to your husband to say, yes, my king, yes, my Lord, yes, my master, you don't lose anything by doing so. You gain so much more, right? Lastly, embrace the beauty and strength of being a righteous woman in Torah, a woman whom seeks daily to align herself with her husband, to Yah, his word, and most importantly, his will for her life. In a world full of Jezebels, be a Sarah. Y'all, thank you so much for riding with me for this whole Bible study. It's been a journey. I've grown so much. I hope that you've grown as well, spiritually, mentally, whatever you can take away from this. Again, thank you for watching. Thank you for following. Please like the video, share it to Facebook or wherever you want to share it to. I appreciate all of your love and support. Now, this has been quite the study. And for those of you who know, I am a homeschooling mama. So I will be taking off the next couple of weeks just to get my kids acclimated to their new school year as pre-kindergartners. Okay. So you might not see anything from me for a little while, but there's plenty of content on my channel. So if you want a little bit of Anna, there's plenty for you to check out. But thank you again so much for your support, for your love, and for following. And I just give Yehovah all the praise, honor, and glory. Father, I just thank you so much for allowing me to share this message that you have given me with your sheep, and just continue to pour your Holy Spirit into us. Lead us in all that we do, all that we think, all that we speak, Father. Allow us to speak life into others, not death. Allow us to uplift, encourage, and support one another, not to bring each other down. Please, Father, remove any backbiting or murmuring, any complaining, any hate, any anger, any sadness from our lives. Allow us to truly be the daughters of Sarah that you want us to be, Father. Allow us to follow and walk in the steps of Yahoshua Ha'Mashiach, to be a light unto the world, Father. In your name, by your grace and by your glory, by Shem Yahoshua Ha'Mashiach, we give you all the praise, honor, and glory. We love you so much, and we thank you so much. Amen. Thank you so much for following. Shalom.